I have done business with Mark Jager for many, many years. Mark is rather famous for his Michigan books that he has placed in many different stores throughout Michigan. And Mark, how long have you been an author of books?
The first Mystic Michigan book came out in 1995.
1995, oh my goodness.
So I've been at it ever since.
StarboardQuest. And so I go, wow, that's a little different than what I've seen come out of your creation. And so I ask you, and I'm going to ask you today on the show, how did you get to write this book?
I've had a fascination with this type of thing my whole life. When I was younger, I actually began to start dreaming music, and I thought it was unique. And then one day Paul McCartney was on a talk show on VH1, so I called in and I asked him if he had ever experienced receiving any music from dreams or the spirit world. And you can go on YouTube, because they put it back on. It's on VH1 Meets Paul McCartney Part 8, starting at 4 minutes and 4 seconds in.
You actually got to talk to Paul.
Yes, I did.
And so what did he say?
Well, the song Yesterday
Yes.
completely came to him from a dream. He didn't believe that he had written it for weeks, but it ended up being something that he had actually written. And then as far as the music from the spirits, he said he never really encountered anything like that. But later that year, I believe it was the same year, he did an album called the Liverpool Oratorio, in which he did classical music, and he wrote a play with it, and he had a character in the play having music come to him from ghosts in a dream.
Mm-hmm. So I wonder where that came from.
Yeah, that is so interesting. So tell us a little bit about this book. I mean, was this in the back of your mind to do for a long time?
Yeah, and then just this last few months it came together. It's exploring music's connection to the universe. You go in to find out what Pythagoras and Plato and a lot of the Greek philosophers and Roman philosophers and biblical people had to say about music at a heightened level.
And you've got all these musical instruments here too, so is that part of your book?
Yeah, this is part of the research. This one instrument here is called a Pythagorean monochord.
And which one is that?
This one here.
Okay.
Pythagoras used this to study the relationship between string spacing and harmonics of music. And he found if you move this little thing around here and divide the string in half, these two strings are tuned the same, but if you move this part here and this string forward halfway, it'll produce one octave up. And he had different, he could do fifths and perfect fifths and such, and they are all according to mathematics and fractions and spacings on the string.
Is this the instrument that you had the one professor work on, or?
No, I went to Michigan State University, and I've been working with Mark Cooper and Dave Milanich. Tom Wall has been involved too. And what we've done is, Mark's a mathematician and a sound engineer. So music was laid out according to golden proportions. Music was done in Pythagorean tuning. Timing was in a certain pulse that was a mathematical equivalent of the 432. And I took some of the music down to Michigan State University, and Professor Berkeley Walker had a photosynthesis machine there. And in the laboratory, he played, or some of the music was played for the plants, and it appeared as if when the music was played for the plants, they began absorbing more light. And all the results and stuff are in the book. There's pictures and the graphs.
Isn't that just something? When I was reading on your book here a little bit, there's certain songs that have certain keys to them and tunes that really bring emotion to people. I've been actually putting on my Facebook page Hallelujah and some of the ones, and oh my gosh, you listen to that music and it brings you to emotion. And I know I'm not alone in that. You know, there's certain keys that you get to that just make you want to cry, actually, or make you feel joyous. And is that, I mean, that must be a science, right?
The Greeks had something called the doctrine of ethos,
Okay.
and they had 7 different modes, and they had a mode for everything. They had a mode for marching to war. They had a mode for this and that. Certain modes they didn't want young men to listen to because they figured it'd make them too much of a sissy. They wouldn't be a good soldier. And a lot of the music that we play today would have been against the law back in Greece.
Really?
They would only allow certain things. In fact, the Chinese emperors would send ambassadors or researchers out to different provinces within China to listen to the music that people were playing, and it was thought to be a reflection of their character. And they monitored the health of their provinces by what types of music that people were listening to.
Very interesting. I can tell that you've been studying this like a lot. I mean, you really know what you're talking
For
about.
a while.
Oh my gosh, I guess so. Well, you're very passionate about it. So, what is this thing? I mean, I look like I could make something like this.
Well, Dan Feyerabend, who's an electronics guy, rebuilt that. It's a replication of a Tesla, what they call Tesla Spirit Radio. Nikola Tesla was in his laboratory all alone, and before there was radio stations, he built one of those, and he heard conversations coming out of that radio that sounded like people talking in a foreign language that he couldn't understand. And he says, there must be something that I have overlooked, because I can't imagine that I'm listening to people from other planets. But Thomas Edison heard about this through engineers, and in 1920 he told American Magazine, I'm going to try to build a radio which will enable people to speak to departed loved ones on the other side. And Thomas Watson, who was the assistant of Alexander Graham Bell, was also working on such an instrument. You have to ask yourself, I'm getting lengthy here.
No, but this is
You have to ask
interesting.
yourself, how did such brilliant minds put their time and resources towards something like this if they weren't quite convinced that there was something happening?
Yeah, very interesting. Well, what's this thing right here?
That little device right there is a sonic levitator. You can put little objects in there, and that will produce a frequency which will cause the object to levitate.
Well, there's a lot of things that we don't know that go on in this world, isn't there? A musical instrument that you brought in. You need to have Bluetooth with it, and we don't have that. But could you kind of just explain it? It's, for those of you that are listening to the radio, it's just a wood square piece that has, is it metal or what's inside there?
I'm not sure exactly its construction, but what you do is you place random grains of sand on there. It's a cymatics instrument.
Okay.
And you put certain tones through there. It will arrange that randomly scattered sand into perfect geometrical shapes,
Interesting.
depending on what tone you're putting through there.
I didn't realize that music and mathematics were connected to each other. I did not realize that. Interesting. Your book, does that tell you about all of these instruments and
Oh yeah,
and
there's
everything?
graphs in there. There's pictures of some of the instruments. It goes quite extensively into what different philosophers, how they see the connection between music and the universe. So Isaac Newton's in there. Martin Luther is quoted. Clement of Alexandria, Pythagoras, Plato, Albert Einstein, Tesla.
Very
All were
interesting.
saying similar things about frequency, sound, and vibration, but all from different fields. The whole thing is interrelated.
Wow. Well, this book will be an amazing book for anyone that loves music, is very interested in the science of music, and it's been wonderful to have you on the show, Mark, to share your expertise and just to actually amaze me. I mean, really, I appreciate you being my guest today.
I appreciate being here. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Mark, how can people get in touch with you?
Well, you can contact me by email at StarboardQuest@gmail.com,
Okay.
or you can just go online to the website, StarboardQuest.com.
Okay.
Do you have a Facebook page too?
That's just getting started.
Okay.
There is I think there's beginnings of it going on. I have it being built. And then if you want to see the soundtrack for the book also has a soundtrack that goes with it,
Mhm.
especially designed frequencies and such put into it. You can go to YouTube and see music videos as well.
Oh, okay.
Oh, good.
Just go to YouTube, put in Starboard Quest.
StarboardQuest.
Okay.
Okay,
All
perfect.
right.